Alrighty, I'm about to watch the documentary, or start watching the documentary about my family's cult. Let's go. If you don't know, it's called Shiny Happy People, and it is available on Amazon Prime. And I also know some of the people in this documentary, which is like the good people being interviewed, as well as some of the bad people. But we're gonna see. His face does not get any less creepy over time. Honestly, the Holtz being in this is one of the biggest power moves because Jim Holt is Jim Bob's like lifelong friend, and him coming out. I know Jill being in it hurts because like that's the daughter speaking out against her parents, but for your lifelong friend to come out and be like, you were in a cult, says a lot. Says a lot about that. And it's finally Fundy Fridays. We love to see her. So we owned that book in my household. My mom bought it at the yearly conference that IBLP ran. And after she heard the Duggar speech, she was like, I'm going to buy this book and we're going to implement some of the rules, which included tying my sisters and I together because of the buddy system that the Duggars encouraged. To be honest, I'm haunted by that blue background. It was at all the IBLP conferences, and I don't understand why we had this boring blue background, but it haunts me. Okay, this section right here really explains why IBLP is a cult. Just like watch their little video on marketing the basic seminar.
The basic seminar offers lasting answers for resolving family conflicts, overcoming feelings of inferiority, removing guilt and bitterness.
So like that all sounds good in theory, but nothing is the answer for all of your problems, resolving family conflicts, removing bitterness. If anybody says, I have the answer to these problems, they're lying to you in order to control you, and they want you to owe them all of your happiness, peace, and satisfaction in life. Because if they are giving you the answers, they're going to expect some sort of payment, and that payment for Bill Gothard was lifelong loyalty. I remember feeling so guilty because I didn't have a vision, and this man made me feel like trash. Okay, just listen to the cadence of Bill Gothard's voice. I don't know why, but it was absolutely mesmerizing, and all of us were addicted to it.
I have for every one of you the answer on how to conquer any habit you have. People say, well, how many children should you have? The answer is how many blessings of God.
I find that question wild that he presumes to ask it when he was never married nor had children. Like, the audacity of this man. Yes, I appreciate that they asked Jill about this, but as someone who has also been through similar circumstances as Jill, it is freaking hard, and I agree. Like, there are certain things in your life that you never want the public to know, that is too intimate, that's too much. And this, for Jill, with the situation with Josh, is that, and I completely empathize with her, and it honestly hurts to have to see her know her trauma is so public and that it is once again going to be brought up in any context in a documentary, because really, as a journalist, it is something you should ask about, even if it is deeply traumatizing to once again have to face that sort of question.
This has been specifically on the Duggars and not on the Institute itself.
We're all proud of these mothers and fathers who obeyed the Lord in bringing more sons and daughters into the world.
True words have never been spoken. Everybody knows about the Duggars. Everybody. A lot of people know about the Duggars, but very few people know about Bill Gothard and the outsized influence he's had on people. So I'm very grateful for this documentary and clarifying that and shining a light on this community that has harmed so many lives. Anyway, I just finished the first episode, and I really do like the storytelling. I like the people they interviewed. I think they're doing a great, fantastic job of highlighting just how harmful the Institute in Basic Life Principles is. Episode 2, Exposing My Family's Cult. Let's watch it. I reacted to episode 1 earlier and then took a breather, and now we're diving in to episode 2 of Shiny Happy People on Amazon Prime.
Recovery and damage control. You just feel like the burden and the weight falls on you to help.
I've definitely experienced things like that on a much smaller scale, where I have been pressured to publicly offer forgiveness and sweep wrong actions done by my parents that other people saw in the church that I grew up in that was heavily involved in IBLP. People saw abuse that was happening. They would call out my parents on it, and then I would be pressured to say, it's okay, it's not that bad. Of course, on a much smaller scale than the Duggar girls ever experienced with going on Megyn Kelly and all of that mess. But I will say, in IBLP, if a person has harmed their children, especially a father, the children are heavily pushed to publicly forgive and move forward and show that they honor and still respect their father, and that their father can be forgiven and accepted back into the fold, the community. That happened to several families in IBLP, and that definitely was something that was involved or a part of my community experience.
Just curious about girls, and he had gone in and just basically touched them over their clothes.
I don't talk about this a lot on the internet, but I'm a victim of childhood sexual assault, and whenever I brought it up as a teenager saying, hey, this happened to me, and my parents knew it had happened to me, I was told many times that the boy who did it, who was a teenager, about the same age as Josh, a little bit older, was told many times, well, he was just curious about girls and he didn't know better. That is an excuse that seemed to be parroted by a lot of IBLP parents to defend their teenage sons. So when Jim Bob said this about Josh, I was a freshman or sophomore in college. I think I was a freshman. And it was so triggering because I had been told to me many, many times as a defense or why we shouldn't report what had happened to me to the police, because it was just a result of curiosity, not actual assault.
Was the first fully homeschooled child in our family.
There was this thing at the IBLP where parents would brag about the children that were born after they started IBLP, like this child is the one who will be our redemption because they have no corruption. I remember meeting friends of our family, friends in our church group, and they would mention the children. They were like, this child has never been in public school. They're fully IBLP from birth. And so there was like an extra burden placed on them that they would redeem the family from the mistakes they made with their other kids, their older kids. It definitely set up like a hierarchy and also a weird responsibility on children who grew up being told this about themselves. Like, you've never been corrupted. You will bring redemption to our family name. Like, what?
A person listens to a rock song. Even a Christian rock, they give Satan a little square in their soul.
Whenever I would be riding with some friends of my family, like my cousins or someone else, and I would be in their car and they would have rock music on, I would be terrified that I was letting Satan get into part of my soul. I would literally go home and like be mentally upset about this and like begging God to clean my mind, my spirit, whatever, because I had let Satan into my ears. I was genuinely terrified of rock music for a long time.
IBLP, you're at high alert all the time, digging into everything, making sure you're not doing or thinking or feeling anything that's going to get you sent to hell.
The high alert thing is really true, and I think it hurt a lot of young children's immune systems because I think the anxiety and the constant fear created like a lot of internal sickness. A lot of kids, especially older daughters in IBLP families, were like constantly fighting like immune diseases, immune sicknesses, and I think it was the stress and the anxiety, the high alert nature was not healthy. And it is something I remember when I walked away, people were like, oh, what do you like most miss, or what do you most notice when you're not in a cult? And I'm like, honestly, not caring about whether I hit snooze on my alarm is going to send me to hell. Like, that was something that literally, like, hitting snooze on your alarm could be the end of the world because you were in disobedience and you were letting Satan into your home. So yeah, that stress of like the bare smallest decisions could destroy your life and God would let you be punished and die. That I do not miss that at all. Leaving that anxiety, fantastic.
Every single one of us will see life through our particular spiritual gift.
You were taught you had a spiritual gift, and you were supposed to determine what your spiritual gift was, and that spiritual gift was to be used for the ministry.
I can't believe I forgot about that. I could never figure out what my spiritual gift was. I think I decided it was teacher, and that's how I was like, my spiritual gift is being a teacher, so I should be allowed to go to college. But I never really felt like I fit in any of the like examples that Bill Gothard would give about these spiritual gifts, and I did feel like I was broken in the system. I was like, something's wrong with me. I don't fit in any of these gifts. So I will pick the one that will let me have an excuse to go to college and leave home.
Scream at us, she would threaten us, she would beat us mercilessly. At one point, she beat me for an entire hour in a church bathroom in an effort to break my will, as she said.
So this happened to me a lot, the breaking the will, especially my mom would decide that I was being too independently willed and I had a bad attitude, and they would devise punishments. The one punishment that sits out because I literally was like fighting to live. It's the easiest way to put it. But it was 3 days, and I did not eat anything for 3 days. And I had a sewing class, and then we went to a Republican Party event that had a barbecue, and I snuck like a roll from the buffet line. That was all I ate for 3 days because my mom said my will was not broken. And at the end of 3 days, I don't know what I did to convince her that my will was broken, but I was like 14 or 15 years old. And I was just struggling to figure out how to act in order to prove that my will was broken so that I would be allowed to eat dinner.
So blanket training was also covered in Michelle Duggar's book.
So obviously, since I'm adopted, I was age 9 when I was adopted, blanket training wasn't really an option. So instead, my mom would set up traps around the house. So if I really liked a food, like let's say a chocolate bar, she would leave the chocolate bar where I would drink water, and she would like leave it there for several days until I would like finally be like, this has been sitting here for like 3 days. Nobody's eating it. 10-year-old me would be like, maybe I could eat it. I would convince myself, gaslight myself that my mom didn't care since she was leaving it there. Like any 9 or 10-year-old, I would eventually eat the chocolate bar, and then I would get in like so much trouble and then not be allowed to eat anything but like cottage cheese for a week, the only food I don't like, in order to like punish me for stealing food and breaking the rules. Anyway, so it's not blanket training, but it was something similar, but that you would do it with a 9 or 10-year-old to break their spirit instead of, because you can't blanket train a 10-year-old. Anyway, but I would like ask, like, why would you leave the chocolate bar out for 3 days waiting for me to take it? Why would you do that? And my mom would say, because I wanted to tempt you and then show you that you can't get away with sin. Yeah, 10-year-old me did not like that.
To be free is to learn the wishes of your authority.
Gothard said this, and honestly, I don't remember him saying this, but I remember this. I was a teenager, 16, maybe 17, really struggling to create peace in my family's household, because as an oldest daughter, I was really trying to get my younger sisters and my parents to stop fighting all the time, because it was causing a lot of issues. And I was like, okay, Dad, what can we do so that my sisters and I are not always in trouble, and we're having peace at home? And my dad said, scratch my back, and I'll scratch yours. And I was like, what? Like, is it my job to please you so that you treat us like your children instead of your enemies? And he said, yes, it is your job to please me, and in pleasing me, your life will be so much better. And until then, you are my enemy until you please me. So yeah, 17, 16-year-old me, lovely view of a parent-child relationship.
Gothard turned every father into a cult leader and every home into an island.
True words never spoken. The truth. The truth. So talking about how weddings are a transfer of authority from father to the future husband reminds me of the story my dad always said when I walked down the aisle, or when he walked me down the aisle, he was going to carry a whip and give it to my future husband. Not that I expected my husband to beat me, but just to show that just as he had trained me, he was now turning over that authority to train me to my husband. So excited to be married. Episode 2 was hard, and I'm almost out of time. I can't believe I almost have 10 minutes of commentary. That was just flipping hard. Very traumatic. Very traumatic. I'm glad I didn't watch it. I'm not binge watching it. I could not. It's a lot to hear people talking about and to remember things I would rather actually not remember. I'll get to episode 3 and 4 eventually. It will happen.